I'm going to be installing a power stop brake kit with slotted and drilled rotors and these very nice heavy duty power stop extreme severe duty truck and tow brake pads. Since I do tow here and there with my truck, the pads look like they're nice quality. They have a stainless steel backer plate, ceramic pads, so I should have a little bit less brake dust and hopefully longevity and life in these pads. To do this job, you'll need a 22 millimeter socket. That'll be to take your wheel lug nuts off. You'll also need a 19 millimeter socket and an 18 millimeter socket. The 19 millimeter will be to separate the brake caliper, which I've already done, off of the caliper mounting bracket. And then the 18 millimeter socket will be to remove the caliper bracket from the control arm assembly. At this point, I'm in the process of removing this caliper bracket. Then after that, I will remove these Torx bolts off the rotor, which will allow me to pull the rotor off and replace it with a new rotor. After that, I can replace the caliper bracket and reinstall the caliper with the new pads, and I'll be on to the next rotor in the back of my truck. I like to use 1/2-inch drive sockets, impact sockets, and hand sockets for this project just because of the torque on a lot of these nuts is higher than you typically would find on a car or a smaller vehicle. 1/2-inch drive seems to work better for me. The size of the Torx bolt you're going to remove, you'll use a T30 Torx bit to get that out. After removing this Torx bolt out of your rotor, next you could take an M10 by 1.25 by 30 millimeter bolt, and you could drive it into either this hole or this hole to help separate the rotor from your hub. This particular bolt I got at my local auto parts store is a 16 millimeter. Yours may be the same or it may be different. I also have a breaker bar that I'm going to use to hold the rotor stationary while I turn that nut. While you have your front rotor and tire off, it's a good idea to hit this grease fitting right here, this Zerk fitting, with your grease gun. The end of your tie rod should be another regular maintenance item, and well, you got this all apart. It's very easy to access. This is what we're looking at when we got the rotor off. It came off pretty easily for me. The bolts should make light work of it. So I got my new rotor on. This is the front driver's side rotor. These rotors come labeled. They are different. I have my power stop brake pads right here. This is going to be my next step, getting these loaded into the brake caliper, getting the clips set up on the caliper. I just cleaned off my caliper with some brake cleaner, tried to get any debris out of there. I am going to crack open the bleeder valve. That way, when I compress the pistons, I won't be pushing dirty brake fluid back into the brake line. Overall, I did an inspection on these. They look to be in pretty good shape. The seals look good. I don't see any fluid or anything around them, so I'm going to say that they're good to go. When I go to compress them, that's when I'll find out if they're seized or not, but I don't think they are. So I did have a hard time breaking the bleeder valve open. I had to use my torch to heat it up a little bit, and I hit it with PB Blaster several times. couldn't find a wrench that would fit on there, which is strange. So I used my vice grips, and it did break loose pretty cleanly. So now I'm good to compress the pistons and the caliper and get my brake pads in there. You can see at this point, my 2 pistons and my caliper are fully compressed. I just used this J-clamp, simple. I just tightened them down as much as I possibly could, and then since I had the brake bleeder valve open, I closed it back up, and now I'm going to load in the pads. So this kit also comes with new replacement bushings to replace, it's hard to show you, replace this piece right here, this bushing. You can see I have this one pulled out already. They just slide right out of the caliper mounting bracket. You see it's pretty nasty in there. I'm going to spray some brake cleaner in there, clean it out, and then I'm going to take a new one out of this package and install them in this caliper bracket. So these bushings could be a little difficult to get out. What I like to do is I like to take a screwdriver, I use a small stubby one, and then I whack it a few times with my hammer. That way I kind of indent the metal ring that inserts into the caliper bracket, and then I could get some leverage on this bushing and push it right out of its housing. So now I have my bushings installed. I have my brake pads slid into the mounting bracket. I put my new clips on. This set came with 2 different style clips. I matched the clips on there with the originally existing clips. I'm going to apply some lubricant at contact points. So right in here, I'm going to lubricate on both sides. Same with the back pad, if you want to call it that, in there and in there. Being careful not to get any brake lubricant on the actual pad material. I'm also going to lubricate the back of this pad where it contacts the pistons, and the back of this pad where it will contact the back of the brake caliper. I am going to use this Glyde brake lubricant that I have right here. These pads did come with a couple packets of lubricant, but I like this brake lubricant, and it's easier to apply out of the tube. Also remember to apply some of that brake lubricant to your slide pins before you insert them back into this housing. I also cleaned the old lubricant off these slide pins with brake cleaner before I applied new lubricant. I cleaned the inside of the housing as well. I would do all that just while you have everything taken apart. That way everything is fresh. So I'm at the point where I have the front and the back rotors and calipers on with the new pads. I'm ready to torque everything down. The only difference from the front to the back is that the bolt that mounts the caliper to the mounting bracket on the rear of the truck is a 13 millimeter bolt as opposed to the one on the front, I believe, is an 19 millimeter. I have the torque specs listed in the description.